A wonderful morning to everyone who has joined today. From Manage Engine family, we would like to extend our warm welcome and sincere thanks to all our customers, partners, and users who are interested in our solution. Endpoint management and security is one of the main focus area of Manage Engine. Let me introduce myself. My name is James and I'm a product specialist with Manage Engine. I take care of the endpoint management products, including Desktop Central. I'm a seasoned technical support engineer assisting customers in their implementation, consultation, and troubleshooting in case of any challenges. In today's webinar, we will focus on endpoint management solutions, which has different product portfolios under Manage Engine and security solutions. During today's session, we will be discussing Desktop Central Suite, which has management and security capabilities. Many things have changed in the past few months. We find ourselves struggling to cope with COVID-19 pandemic. Please protect yourself and others around you by knowing the facts and taking appropriate precautions. As an organization, we have done our bit in adopting work from home, but as an individual, we need to contribute to stop the spread. Please stay home and be safe. Once again, welcome to Desktop Central Training. Let's look at the training schedule. We are on week 3, asset management. This is one of the modules of our endpoint management and security suite. We have covered a couple of modules over the past weeks. In case if you have missed any of our training schedules, you can always view them on the link that is shown at the bottom of the screen. If you're interested in the upcoming training, please use the same link to register yourself. Let's look at the asset management module today. So in today's agenda, we will have an overview of Desktop Central. We will also identify work from home endpoints and application control to restrict non-business applications and how to do endpoint lockdowns. We will also look into Desktop Central architecture, some scenarios, solutions, and frequently asked questions. We will be using Desktop Central Server Build 502 for this presentation. So what is Desktop Central? Desktop Central is an endpoint management solution that ensures all your endpoints are secure and enables the users to use them effectively for business. With Desktop Central Unified Endpoint Management, you will be able to manage desktops, laptops, mobiles, servers, point of sale devices, and even browsers. All this from a single console. A popular research analyst called Forrester defines UEM as follows: products that provide a centralized policy engine for managing and securing employee laptops and mobile devices from a single console. In an unified endpoint management, you can manage endpoints in a traditional IT management fashion. This includes patch management, application management, configuration deployment, OS deployment, tools for troubleshooting, and day-to-day management activities. Similarly, endpoints can also be managed with modern management. All modern operating systems supports modern management. It supports features like geo tracking, geofencing, managing stored applications, profile distribution to enforce restrictions, operating system reset and recovery. Can you guess the popular operating system when I say modern operating system? Yes, obviously it's Windows 10. Windows 10 is a classic example in which we can manage both traditional and modern management. Desktop Central can manage both the world's traditional and modern from a single console. Now, these are the features that you can leverage when you're using Desktop Central as a unified endpoint management solution. We have patch management, which takes care of operating system, and third-party application patching. We have application management, asset management, configurations. In fact, if you're following our training schedule, we will talk about this in our next sequence. You can manage other functions, including mobile device management for iOS, Androids, Windows, and Chromebooks. Then we have modern management, which is for Windows and Mac machines. You can perform things like geo tracking, complete or corporate wipe. You can even put them on kiosk mode. You can distribute store apps and manage profile distribution. Then we have OS deployment, where you will be able to create a single master image and deploy it to multiple machines. Now, these are the features that are offered within the Desktop Central suite. Desktop Central is recognized for Best Unified Endpoint Management Tool of 2019, as reviewed by customers in Gartner Peer Insights Customer Choice Award. We are recognized for Unified Endpoint Management in Magic Quadrant for the second consecutive year. We are recognized for both traditional and modern management. Now let us look at the components that you need to run this application. There are essential as well as optional components. The Desktop Central Server is the central component that you will install. It provides the interface to the management console. The agent is also an essential component. You need the agent to be installed on the machine that you want to manage. There is another component called the notification server. And guys, this is an interesting component. We will talk more about this once we go into the product. When we look at the optional components, we have distribution server, which serves as a repository for patches, softwares, scripts that you have deployed to machines in the remote office. We can create unique replication policies for each location as per the bandwidth requirement. Then we have the secure gateway server. This is useful if you are going to manage machines that are not part of the LAN or connecting over the internet. We also have the failover server in case if you want to have high availability, you can make use of this. Just to let you know, this is separately licensed. Moreover, you can also use a language pack to list the web console in your preferred language. Now, these are the supported operating system. We support Windows, Mac, and Linux. Also, please find the list of supported operating system on the screen. The application server runs on Windows platform, but you can manage the endpoints with Windows or Mac or Linux operating system. In case you have any questions, you can always reach out to support. Please refer to the email address shown at the bottom of the screen. Let's quickly look at the agent installation method. Since this is a client server model, which means you need to have the agent installed in all your endpoints in order to manage them. So to facilitate agent installation, we recommend three methods. First, via group policy startup script in your Active Directory. You can simply download the application setup and push it using group policy object. Second, we do have automatic agent installation directly from the web console. You can add multiple domains and choose machines from those domains and push out the agent to them. We also have scripts that you can use to install the agent. Alternatively, you can download the agent manually and execute the setup directly on the client machine, and it should then automatically report back to the server. We will be talking about agent installation in greater detail in our upcoming training sessions. If you're interested, please subscribe to the upcoming training. Also, during this training session, if you guys have any questions, we do have panelists sitting and waiting for your questions. Just post your questions. You should be able to get the answers. Now, why do enterprise need asset management? I've simplified into four options. First one, to keep track of all softwares and hardware assets in our organization. Also to optimize the usage of software licenses, and to be compliant and audit ready at all times. And at last, detailed in-depth reports to cater all your needs. Now, how does inventory scan works? Guys, since I said this is a client server model, as soon as you deploy an agent, there will be a first one-time scan, a full scan that happens for patch as well as inventory. Let me quickly take you guys to the console to show you where these settings are. So you can go to the admin tab, and under the admin, you have this option called agent settings. In here, you can see actions to be performed after agent installation. The perform patch scanning and perform inventory scanning will be selected by default. So there will be a full-time scan happens at the first as soon as you deploy the agent. Now, and after that, there will be a schedule that you need to configure on the console to perform the inventory scan. You very well can do a manual scan as well as automate the scan using a scheduler. Let me take you guys again back to the console to show you that. It's under the inventory, and you have this option called scan systems. And in here, you have this option, schedule scan. In here, you have an edit button. Click that. You can see the inventory scan as well as the file scan. You can just simply create a scan that suits your requirement. So during this schedule scan, what happens? Does the agent do again a full scan? No. It's going to be a differential scan. And during this scan, the agent compares the old data, and it will send only the difference data back to the server. Now, this is how the scan happens. Now, if you would like to do the manual scan, again on the console, under the same option, scan system, you can see the machines that you're managing. You can simply select the machine and say scan system. Now, what happens as soon as I click on the scan system option? Remember, I mentioned about the notification server. Since this is a client server model, all the communications are inbound to the server. Nothing goes outside the server. So now, since I'm selecting the machine and I'm clicking the scan system, basically what I'm doing an action on the server. Now, what happens is this. Now, the server uses the notification server to reset the agent timer. There is a default refresh cycle for an agent to communicate back to the server. It's 90 minutes, 90. Now, during this time, agent will come back automatically and check for configuration. But when I do some on-demand actions like scanning, server uses that notification server to reset that timer, and then the agent comes back to the server, sees that there is something that needs to be done from the server, it does the scan. Now, what are the what kind of data is collected during the scan? First one, hardware, software that are currently installed and used, driver details, certificates being used, security details like antivirus, BitLocker, firewall information, and missing patches. You can also find the USB usage, user logon details, and for modern operating system, the modern management gives you the option to track your device using geolocation option. Now, let me take you guys back to the console again. As I mentioned, if I click a computer name, you will be able to find out the complete detail about the operating system summary. Service tag and serial number can be automatically fetched from the vendor websites. System information like users that are using that machine, services that are running, groups that are created, driver details. And if you'd also see, we will also be able to show you the device status. I mean, the driver, whether the driver is working okay or not. If it is not working, you will also find if there is an error, which will also be shown here under the remarks column. Hardware details, whether the hardware used by that machine is working okay or not, all that information. Software that are currently installed and used. If you find some unauthorized application, you can uninstall it from here using the uninstall button. Certificate details, what certificate being used on those client machine. File details, security details, as I mentioned, BitLocker. If the BitLocker is enabled, you can fetch the recovery key from here itself. antivirus detail, whether you're using Windows Defender or any other third-party antiviruses, whether it is enabled or not, whether it is up to date, firewall details, like what again, whether it's a Windows firewall or if it's a third-party firewall information. Also, since I said this, since I selected one particular machine, if you'd also need a report for all the machines that you manage, it's available under the inventory report. And if you go to antivirus detail or BitLocker details, you can get a predefined report just by selecting the status. You can also drill down, based on the status that you need. Also, you can export this report as PDF, CSV, or XLS. Now, these are the information that we collect during the inventory scan. Now, I've come up with this, scenario to better explain, the agenda that I have today. Let's say John and his IT team are responsible for managing corporate endpoints, like both office as well as working from home machines. So we've got the head office located in Dallas, and we have multiple branches. As you could see, some of the branches are connected via VPN, say London office, the Bogota office. Now the Chennai and Sydney, Chennai has unlimited bandwidth and the other has limited bandwidth. Now consider Sydney office are roaming users. They are working from home. Now, John and his IT team are responsible to find out, whether the endpoints are working from home or is it right now connected to the office. Now, how to identify an endpoint if it's working from home or if it's connected directly to the server. Now, this is a simple tabular column that I have for you guys. SGS is nothing but Secure Gateway Server. Now, let me give you guys an important information about the agent communication. Now, since I said this is a client and server model, once you got the agents deployed, agent has a sequence to reach the server. First, it will try to reach the server using the host name of the server installed machine. If that fails, then local IP address of the server. Now, if these two address fails, then as a secondary address, you need to have a public FQDN or an IP, which should be NATed in your firewall. Now, why do I need Secure Gateway Server? Since I said you have to do a NAT, if you are going to do a NAT with your desktop central server's IP address, that's basically like exposing the server over the internet, right? So to avoid that, we have this Secure Gateway Server as an additional security layer. So any communication that's gonna hit that public address will be hitting to the Secure Gateway Server, which is under the DMZ zone first, and then it gets redirected to the main server using the default inbound ports. Let's not go into deep, but this is the information about the agent communication sequence. Now, I already have Secure Gateway servers configured. Then, for LAN agents, no problem. When I say LAN agent, meaning a machine that's connected right now to your main office, obviously that agent can resolve the host name and IP, so there will be no issues with the communication. Now, if this user is going to go, start working from home, now how do I, have this agent, move to roaming user? Simple. In the console, if you go to the remote office section, guys, this is a quick launch where you can use them for accessing some of the administrative functions. So if you find a machine that's already been managed in your local office, you can simply go to the computer section here, select the machine, and then you can simply click this drop down to move that user to the roaming user. Now the agent can communicate via public address. Now, if it's already a roaming user, then there's no issues because I have already configured the Secure Gateway Server with my public address. So no matter where the machine is, it's going to reach my server, and I'd be able to manage that machine. Now, I'm new to this setup. I'm going to configure the Secure Gateway Server, newly. So now that you know the sequence, right? Say, for example, I do not have a Secure Gateway Server, and I haven't configured the NAT. Then if you have a machine that's connected via internet, say working from home, no VPN connectivity. Now for this machine to reach the server, obviously it needs public address, host name and local IP will fail. Now, how do I update this public address onto those agent which is working from home, right? Now we have released an article which will give you step-by-step instructions, also a script that will allow you to update it on the client machine. Now, since we have limited time for this presentation, I've already, screen captured with the instructions. Now I'm going to play it and I'll explain it. Okay. Now, first scenario. Um, how to identify an endpoint if it's connecting through distribution server, right? Now let me quickly go here and I'll show you guys. The instructions are available step by step, even with video tutorial there. We will be sharing that links with you. Now, as I said, we are going to find out the endpoints that are going to communicate with distribution server. Now all you gotta do is, we have a script that is available on the article itself. This is the script. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this script and I'm going to put it on a notepad. Now I need the timer in milliseconds in order to identify the agent. You can just simply Google it like current time in milliseconds and you can get the epoch calculator. Just copy that time, the current time, and you have to subtract that current millisecond with the timer that we have mentioned on the script, which I'm going to show you right now. So just, it's a simple math, guys. Just copy the current millisecond timer from Google, and then just minus it with the timer that is available on the script. Just a second. Let me show you the actual how we do it. So just copy, subtract, and paste it over here. And once this process is done, you just have to copy the script, go to the console. Now under the console, you have this option called a query report. Let me show you guys in a few seconds. So I've made the calculations there, and I've entered the timer there, and I've copied the script, and I'm going back to the console reports, and then I go to query reports, and then I'm going to run a new query report. So just paste that query there and then run it. So I'm going to say this as work from home with distribution server. Just say run report and you would be able to find the branch office name, whether the agent is communicating directly or through a distribution server. If it's connecting to through distribution server, then what's the distribution server name? The report can be exported for your usability as well. Now this is in terms of um, through distribution server, right? The next is, how do I identify the directly connecting endpoints? Now, again, on the same article, we do have a script available. First thing, you have to run the script using the custom script option available under the configuration module available in Desktop Central. Once the custom script configuration is deployed, then copy the script, go back to the reports again, query reports, and then new query again, run the report, and there's one important thing you have to modify in the script, which is nothing but the name of the script that you deployed using the configuration module. So now go to the configuration, and I have already deployed a configuration called work from home. I'm just going to copy that name, and after copying that name, I just gotta go back and make sure that the script is executed, guys. Once it is executed onto all your client machines, just go back here, edit that config name, and put the name that you deployed under the configuration, and then run the report. You will know whether it's communicating like with true or false options. So this is how you would be able to identify a machine that's connecting directly to the server or through a distribution server. Now, as I mentioned, we have the instructions available step by step in the article. You can just, in video, as I mentioned, we do have video tutorials available on the article itself. So as I mentioned in the beginning, guys, if you have any question, do not hesitate. You can very well get in touch with us to get support anytime. All right. If you have any questions, even right now, please use the chat panel. Our panelists will be able to assist you. Now, let's go back to the the presentation. And as I mentioned, that's how you can identify a machine, and you can identify once after identifying it using the script to update the public address to my agents. Now, guys, no matter where the agent is located, um, the agent will be able to reach the server, and you still be able to perform all the functionalities is offered under the Desktop Central. Now, the next thing, application control to restrict non-business applications, which is really critical for all the administrators when it comes to work from home situation, right? We don't want the end user to install any unknown application which is not approved by me as an administrator, right? So we do have this new feature in our Desktop Central, which is called the app control. um, App control basically allows you um, to whitelist or blacklist an application. For example, say there are 20 default softwares that are approved by the organization. Only those 20 software should be used, nothing else. If the end users are trying to install any other application, it should straight away give them a message saying that it's being blocked by the administrator. To achieve that, we have this app control for you. First thing, you have to group the softwares, as in, like, you have to put it under a list, so agents can see our client machine already, and it's going to fetch all the software details, and we will be able to show you based on vendor, based on product name, executable, file hash, folder path. And if you just give all, then it will be like all the options. All right. Now, just group the softwares together as in whitelisted or blacklisted. Even if you have the application installed, we can fetch the hash value. You can block an application based on hash strings. So once you group them together, next thing is deploying this policy to the endpoints. Right now, I've got the groups created. Next thing is policy deployment. Now I have to associate that group, I mean that policy, um, to the group of machines. We have a default group called all computers group, meaning all the computers that has an agent installed. All right. Now, if you say, I have approved softwares for sales and approved softwares for marketing, and these are different, you can also use there's an option called custom group within Desktop Central, wherein you can go here, say custom group. You can create multiple groups based on computers or users, and once that group is defined, you can tag that group here as well. Right now, once I select the policy, now I do have two options: audit mode or strict mode. Strict mode is like only the whitelisted application will run, nothing else. If they even a portable executable, say they have an executable in their flash drive, if they plug it in and then double click it, it's going to straight away give them a prompt saying it's being blocked by administrator. Now, audit mode, so accepted blacklist application, all the other applications will be allowed to run. However, those applications will be listed under gray listed app. Right, if you go to dashboard, we will be able to show you what's blacklisted, what's whitelisted, and what's gray listed applications. So you will have a complete view on what application is approved, what applications being used as gray listed, and you're safe. Like, no other applications can be run on that client machine. So using app control, you have the complete control over endpoints, or the end user who's going to use use the application that you approved. I hope this is clear. If you guys have any questions, as I requested, please use the chat window to get your answers. Right now, next thing, endpoint lockdown. So when it comes to endpoint lockdown, as per me, these are the four important things. First thing is the application control. which I've just explained how to control the application install and uninstall. You have the device USB device management functionality. I will show that in a few minutes. You can also use our patch management to deploy latest updates so that you can have the machine up to date, and then restricting administrative rights. So when it comes to app control, application control, you got the application control here to put it under the approved list of softwares or blacklisted softwares. Now we do have one other functionality under the inventory. It's called prohibit software, which allows you, say there are some application that is not, recommended or not supposed to be used by the end user. You can simply put them under the had prohibit software rule. For example, let me choose, 7-zip, um, as a prohibited software. So I'm going to put this right here and say save. It's going to fetch the information about the machine that has this application installed. Now I can have this automatically uninstalled using an auto uninstall policy, and I can also configure a message right here, user notification setting. So if the end user tries to install it, it gives them a prompt straight away saying that it's being blocked. I mean, whatever the message that you have it here. Now, even if the end user has a valid reason to use the 7-zip, they can also request that, and that request can also be shown here under the user request tab, and you can also approve or deny it based on your will. Now, this is one other option. Now you got both under control, like prohibiting software, and app control allows you to to deploy a policy with only the approved softwares. Now second, securing USB. So you can simply go to the configuration tab here, and then you have this option called secure USB. And then you go to secure USB option. You can simply straight away say that I'm going to block the entire USB port, right? And I can choose the block all option here, and I can define my targets, and then I can just deploy it. Or if you say no, I can let them use the USB port, but not the storage mediums like flash drive or an extended hard drive. You can simply say unblock and block based on device type. So I can simply say block the disk drive alone. Or if you say I can let them use, like I can just say unblock everything, but I don't want them to write anything on the USB. It's going to be like a write protected mechanism. To achieve that, we already have a script that is available under the template section. If you go to the templates, and this should be the last one. So show the view, and you have this option called write protect USB storage. So just create this configuration and deploy it. Now the end user will be able to use the use the USB port, but they won't be able to write anything on the USB device. So we've got covered on both aspects. As in, you can, if you would like to block the USB port completely, you have the secure USB. If you would like to go with write protected USB storage device, then you have the script available. All right. Next thing I mentioned, which is deploy latest patches. Guys, that's going to go through the patch management module where you can deploy the missing updates. Last, restricting administrative rights. So I'm talking about the local administrative rights. First thing, if you'd like to find out how many number of end users are having a local admin privilege, there is a default report under the inventory, and then inventory reports, system group users. If you select that, this will give you filtering options. I'm going to choose domain as filter, and I need local account equal to administrator. I just have to type in here, and then it will find the list, and I can simply export that. You can find the names here, as in the local administrators. The entire thing can be listed out here, and then you can export this as a report too. Now, once after exporting it, I would like to remove this user, right? So for that, we have this configuration module here. And under the configuration, guys, and remember, I'm insisting again, we are going to manage only local system users, not domain users. We do not have any control over your domain users. All right. Now, if I go to user management and say computer, I can either add a user, change password for an existing user, remove one user, and modify an existing user. So using this configuration, you can very well remove the local administrator accounts from the client machines. So we are achieving all the four when it comes to endpoint lockdown. So coming back to the desktop central architecture. So as I mentioned in the beginning, Desktop Central is a client server model application and an on-premise solution. We have released the cloud as well. So Desktop Central is available in Zoho Cloud. If you'd like to use Zoho Cloud, you can also subscribe for a 30-day trial and then you can proceed from there. Um, the, um, the first thing is the LAN architecture. This shows how the agent is going to communicate using the local network. Remember, guys, the sequence remains the same. If it's local or work from home, first is host name, second is local IP, third is the secondary address, which is the public FQDN or the IP, public IP. This is the WAN architecture. When it comes to wide area network, you can manage different remote locations from one console. They can connect either over the internet or using VPN. Sequence remains the same, or through MPLS connections. For the machines that are present in remote site, which are connected over a direct internet connection, you can use the component called Secure Gateway Server, as I mentioned, as a security layer. You can see it here. So you're basically putting another machine under the DMZ where the Secure Gateway Server is installed. All right. And when it comes to remote locations, as I mentioned, we've got the distribution server component, which is used to throttle bandwidth for data traffic between the central server and the remote location. We will talk about this in detail as we go into the training. We can choose to have machines communicate either directly with desktop central server or along with the distribution server. You will be able to manage all your mobile devices using a secure gateway too. With Desktop Central, you can manage multiple domains as well as workgroups. You can deploy configurations targeting Active Directory groups or organizational units. So this is the architecture on how Desktop Central works. Closed network. Now, what is closed network, guys? So a network which does not have a connectivity to internet or limited connectivity is called as closed network, right? If you have a closed network architecture, you still can use Desktop Central to manage your endpoints. Remember the sequence, you will have a better idea, right? Now, we do also support Azure and AWS Marketplace. Um, you can use Azure or AWS to have the Desktop Central application hosted there as well. Remember in the beginning, I mentioned there is a default refresh cycle for an agent. So Desktop Central can scale small as well as large networks, using this 90 minutes refresh policy. Now, every agent communicates with the Desktop Central in 90 minutes, right? So even if you have 90 machines or 900 or even 9,000, the 90 minutes will be divided between them and each machine will be given a specific time to talk with the server. Now the server has the intelligence to assign a time for each client to talk to the server. Now, this is to avoid network congestion or bandwidth related issues. So the 90-minute refresh policy is designed in such a way that the load to the server will be split evenly. Now, since I mentioned this is a client server model, there are some default inbound ports that you have to open as well. Desktop Central runs primarily on two ports, guys, which is 8383 uses HTTPS or 8020, which is HTTP. All the agents talk to the server using this port. There is another port 8027, which is TCP, and this port number is used for notification server for on-demand actions. This as I mentioned when we talked about that scan, so like when we initiate a path scan or a remote control or an inventory scan from the server, this port is used. This particular notification server is used. Apart from these two ports, there are other optional ports that you need to open. The important ports are listed on the screen. You can keep the respective ports open as per your requirement. Guys, there are few other important ports as well. You can use them. Um, so there is a link at the bottom of the screen. Just if you go to the screen, you will be able to find out all the ports that are required to manage the endpoints using Desktop Central. If you guys have any questions, please use the chat panel to get your answers. All right. Now let's quickly go through the scenarios and solutions. All right. First one, we also use Service Desk Plus, which is one of Manage Engine tool for asset management. How do the two products interact? If we are collecting inventory in Desktop Central, do we still need to scan the computers in SDP? No. So the interaction is simple. It's going to be a simple, integration between Desktop Central and the Service Desk Plus using the API keys. Once the API is integrated, you do not have to run the inventory scan on all your managed machine. Guys, remember when I say managed machine, it means a machine that has a Desktop Central agent installed. All right. Now, agent using the Desktop Central agent itself, it scans the data and send it to the um, Service Desk Plus console. Now, the second one, how can we identify the security status of the machines in my network? I've already shown this. So if you go to computer, like go to inventory and then computer detail here, you can see machine by machine detail by clicking the name of the machine and then go to the security tab, or you can also fetch a report under the inventory report, say BitLocker or Windows Firewall. Just select it and we will be able to give you the entire report from all your managed machine. Next scenario, does the prohibit software feature blocks web browser plugins as well? No guys, no. For blocking web browser plugins, we have another tool called Browser Security Plus. You need to use that to manage all your web browsers for plugins or extensions. Scenario number 4. Shared directories with write access is a security threat. Can we identify them? Yes, you certainly can. We have a report again, a default report, which is available under the inventory. And if you go to the inventory report and you have this option called share details, click this. This will give you all the shares that are configured on a client machine, the folder name and the path, everything, and what permission it has, like read, write, or full control. And if you'd like to export this, you can export this report as well. You have an export option right here. Next question. Sorry, next scenario. I want to identify the computers with local administrator accounts. Is this possible? Guys, I've shown this already. So yes, you have an option to fetch the reports just under the inventory section. Going to that option once again, it's under the inventory report and system group users. So in here, using the filtering option, you can get the local administrator accounts and you can export that as a report too. Scenario 6. Dropbox is installed at the user level, and I would like to get the list of computers that have it installed. How do I identify it? You all know that the software can be categorized as computer-based software or user-based software, right? Now we do have one other report. Let me take you guys there. So again, available under the inventory report, and say user-specific software. So again, this will list out all the applications that are user based as in a summary view. You can also find a detailed view which shows the software name, version, OS compatibility, computer name, and who is the manufacturer, who and installed user account, right? And you again, this can be exported as a report too. If you'd like to search for it, you have the search icon as well. Scenario number 7. I want to attach an invoice or other attachments to the computer to maintain my records. Is this possible with asset management? Guys, yes, you can upload a file. All right, let me show you how. Now, in the inventory option, we do have a button that allows you to create custom column fields. It's right here available under inventory and say computer, and if you go here, there is an option called add custom field. Now, in this custom field option, there is one input format which says file upload. For example, I'm going to choose file upload here. I'm going to say this as invoice and say add. Now you should be able to see another column that is added as an invoice. You can simply click on browse to upload the file to the console itself. This way you can keep a track of all your invoices or any other records you would like to import it to the console. Frequently asked questions. The first question would be, can we add the date that computers have been purchased? This is to register warranty dates, etc. Yes, you can. I mentioned in the beginning itself, we do fetch the the service tag and serial number automatically, even the expiry date. But if you would like to add this as a custom field, you have an option right here. Just there is a pencil icon right here. Click this pencil and you should be able to enter it. But when you change the expiry date, you can see the alert message here. When you change the shipping date and expiry date, the automatic warranty scan feature will be disabled. All right. So, but however, you have the option to input it manually. And if you say, I have multiple machines, I do not want to go to each individual machines to import that information. You can also do a bulk update by selecting the respective machines, or you can import a CSV file. Question number 2. When you add a program to the prohibit software list, does it take all the version of software into account? Do I need to update the prohibited software list every time a new version is released? Guys, this is the frequently asked question. Okay, the reason that I say that, because softwares, the vendors will always release a new version. When it comes to a new version, there will always be a duplicate entry, right? So to avoid this duplicate entry and to avoid repetitive adding, like manual interventions, we have this concept called group software. It's available under the manage license option. And if you go to group software and say add software group, um, I'm going to choose Chrome. Let me see. Or I'll choose, say, Adobe itself. I'll choose Adobe. I'm going to say this as Adobe name, just a name, say Adobe group. And in here, I'm going to choose as Adobe. Now, if you say, if you see this Shock player, I've got two versions, 12.1 and 12.3. I'm going to group this as one, right? And then I do have an option called add this following version of Adobe Shockwave Player automatically, right? So in here, there is a 3 dots. I'm going to choose the 12.3 as parent. Guys, just remember this option. I'm going to choose as this parent. So if I enable this functionality here, any version that comes after 12.3 will be added to this group automatically. You do not have to come back here and then add it again. Now, once I add this group, right, if I go to any options that includes the prohibit software, and when I add a rule, instead of go through an individual application, you can find the group that I've created. You can simply put it as a group. So this way you are eliminating duplicate entries, and if there is a new version comes in for this particular software, it will be automatically added to that group, and it will be automatically added under the prohibit software list. Trust this gives you more information. If you have any question, kindly use the chat panel to get your answers. All right. Now, question number 3. In the inventory report of computers without specific software, how to specify filter criteria and schedule them, right? We do have a scheduled report option available. It's under the reports and say scheduled report. And then I can go to the inventory report option here. Guys, this scheduled report, to give you a scenario, say my shift starts at 9. I need a report at 10, every day. I can put this on a scheduler to get that attachment to my email address automatically. Since I need computers without a specific software or with a specific software, there is an option right here. Let me show you guys. Computers with or without specific software, and I can add a criteria to it. I have the plus icon right here. Put a criteria name, and you can choose a column that you need. For example, software name, whether it is going to be equal or like or starts with or ends with. Based on this criteria, and then you can just put it what kind of format you need, as in PDF, XLS, or CSV. What kind of attachment is it going to be? Just an attachment, or a zip file, or just the published link? You can enter the multiple email addresses here, just separate it with comma, and you can put this on a scheduler just right here. Say daily, start from probably say tomorrow, and then like I need this every day, right? So I'm going to perform this every day. So this report will be automatically scheduled and sent to the email addresses that you mentioned here. Question number 4. In case of any issues with the driver in a machine, how can I identify the same? I hope you can all remember the option that I mentioned. It's available under the inventory. And then if you click on the computer name, and right here, if you go to hardware, sorry, system, and then drivers, we will be able to show you the device status and remarks, right? You can see the complete information. If it's not working, then we will be able to show you that it's not working, and there will be a remarks column as well. Let me show. There is 198. See, something is not working. All right. Fortunately, I've got everything working. So in here, if it's not working, it will be listed, guys. And if you'd like to export this as a report, you can export it. Now, question. So that's it from my side, guys. Um, if you like my presentation, you can also rate my presentation from the scale of 1 to 10, where 5 is the best. And if you'd like to spread about the Desktop Central, you can also use the social media platforms as in Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn to spread our word. And the next training, which is about the remote control, which is going to happen on June 24th. You can find the timings here. And if you'd like to schedule a personalized demo, there is a link at the bottom of your screen. You can use that link to get an online demo. Remember, I mentioned the Desktop Central is supported both on-premise as well as cloud. If you'd like to even get a demo on the cloud platform, just use the same link and schedule the demo for you. And once again, thank you so much for joining this presentation. I would say training. Hope the information that I shared is useful for you guys. And as I mentioned, if you guys have any questions, if you need assistance, do not hesitate. You have chat available on the console. You can also drop an email to support. You can also call us back to get support. All right. Thank you again. Please stay home and be safe. Thank you again.